Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to anti-haul number 18. Oh my goodness. It has been a while since I've made an anti-haul and I'm so excited to be talking about this today. I am not always great at talking myself out of decks. I often bring a lot of things in, but I do like to do my best to practice not always saying yes to myself, and anti-hauls are sort of my personal solution to getting caught up in all of the hype to just bring in. This is me sharing with you the things that I've talked myself out of, the things I've decided, at least for now, I'm not going to buy. I have caved on relatively few of the things that I have anti-hauled over the years, but I definitely do cave once in a while just to own my crap. But what we're going to be talking about today are decks that I'm not keeping, some mass market decks I'm not going to buy, indie decks I'm not going to buy, and a few Kickstarters I decided not to back. And one of the things I like to do with this is not only talk about the things I'm not getting, but talk about what in my collection, what do I already have that fills that need for me, that sort of slots into the space that this other thing that I might have been tempted to buy would have filled. So I try to look and enjoy what I have and appreciate what I have and sort of use this as an example to give those things more love. So if that sounds fun to you, stick around, we're gonna get right into it. So first we're gonna talk about decks I'm not keeping. These are decks I've decided I don't need anymore, and I was surprised that there were several things for me to talk about today, given that Peggy just helped me declutter some things and I just went through my entire deck collection. But there's a few things I've identified just aren't working for me, and I know that there's still a few more to be discovered in the not so distant future. So for now, I'm going to talk about what things I have that aren't working that I've decided to let go of, and which things I plan to keep that sort of fill that space for me. So the first of these is probably going to come as a big shock. It is to me, and this is a great, oh my gosh, I can't even, okay, just don't even I'm not going to do all the lead in because it just builds anticipation and that's no fun. The thing I've decided I'm finally going to let go of is the Animators. So this specifically is the Animators Deluxe. This is actually a really good solution to the previous Animators decks I have. Now, I have to admit, I've been a huge fan and supporter of these decks. I've used them a lot for myself. This Animators Deluxe is a deck that I even recently, I think, talked about in a Mass Market Madness. It's still a deck I recommend, and I think it's really awesome. Here's the thing, though. This is awesome. It comes with so many cards. It's on this really great, sort of plasticky linen style cardstock. It shuffles really great. It's really super, bendy, so even though it's a really thick deck, it's not impossible to shuffle. But here's the thing. Oh man, am I ready to let these go? Yeah, I think I am. The thing about these is that I used them a lot for a long time, and when I saw the opportunity to sort of trim down all the individual decks and move to this one, I was really excited, and that's exactly what I did. But ever since then, I realized I haven't really been reaching for this nearly as much as I used to, and I think part of the issue is that this deck is just too wordy for where I'm at right now, which probably sounds ridiculous. I love these little messages. I think they're super great. And this is such an affordable deck, and I think I'm just kind of over it, I think is the thing. And I don't know how else to describe that. It's never a deck that I really pulled often for clients because it's just too many words. So I don't use it in my client readings. And for myself, I prefer affirmative affirmation style decks that have punchier messages, that are quicker, snappier. And I think that's because I just don't use affirmation style decks enough. And this one is really great if you need a good, detailed, sit down, pep talk. But I very rarely feel like I need that anymore. And so this just sits not getting a lot of love. So I've decided to finally move it out. It's something that I think other people will really enjoy. So I have no doubt it will find a very good home. But I've decided to let it go. The reason, and the thing that sort of started this for me, is that recently I was in a position where I was having a really tough time. I needed / wanted, I guess is a better way to put it. I really wanted an affirmation style deck, something that could literally hold my hand while I was really going through some emotional stuff. And the deck that first came to mind when I was going through that wasn't the Animators Deluxe. It was actually something newer to my collection that I wasn't even sure when I got it exactly how it was going to slot in. And it's the Heart Align Affirmation Oracle by Kimberly San. When I tell you this deck was exactly the support that I needed when I really needed or felt like I needed an affirmation style deck to sort of give me that little bit of comfort and boost and encouragement that I needed when I was struggling, this is definitely the one. And I realized that when I was really in a pinch, when I really needed to reach for something for true support and self-care, the affirmators felt like too much work. You know what I mean? And there's two things that this deck did for me that I was not, well, I don't know if I was not expecting it is even fair. Also forgive, my nail polish really needs to be redone, but whatever. The thing about the heart aligned cards is that they have a really short supportive message, and then there's this spot gloss heart. Now, I thought this was really clever that Kim put this on here. So the idea is that you use this kind of like, there's also little spot gloss stars on these cards. But anyway, you read the message. In this case, it says, I forgive myself for the mistakes I've made, and I allow myself to ask for support when I need it. Oh, I'm going to get emotional just reading this one. And then you can put your thumb, you can read that message and think about it, and then put your thumb on this little spot gloss heart and just imagine pulling that message into yourself. Now, when I first got this, I was like, that's so clever and fun, and I really thought it was a cool idea, but not in a million years did I ever see myself like thinking to myself, that is exactly what I need because I'm hurting and I'm struggling. I'm okay, by the way. It was just emotional stuff. And so this deck was everything I needed in that moment. And I realized that that opportunity for that tactile experience for like, not just reading the card, but like interacting with it, it made it feel even more like holding my hand or giving me a hug than any other sort of supportive hug deck I think I've ever talked about. And this deck came out of Kimberly Sand's sort of own Dark Night of the Soul. She talks about it on her channel Fables Den, I think, or on Instagram. She talks about it somewhere. I'll try to find something where she's talking about it and link it. But this came out of a time when Kim needed this kind of support, and so she created this for herself in that way. Like, this was something she needed, and it came out of that place. And I think that's why, when I was in that place, this just hit all the right notes for me. The types of messages that were in here, the fact that there was lots of cards, the fact that it was a little bit smaller so I could literally chuck it in my bag, and I literally carried this around with me like a cuddly blanket. Like, this is what I needed in that time to sort of carry me through. And again, I'm making it sound super dramatic. It felt big at the time, but it was just internal stuff. But this was exactly what I needed. And the cards in here just always hit just right. Like the kind of relief of being really seen and heard and felt. And I could literally talk about it. Like, I should stop because this is going to be a very long video if I do this. But the way that this ended up supporting me just told me that when it comes to affirmation style decks, this is it. Like, this is what I need. And that's when I realized that the reason I hadn't been reaching for the affirmators is that the messages are so long. And when I'm really struggling, what I need is something like this. Something that's going to quickly give me the support that I need, give me a way to engage with the card, not just be words on paper, if that makes sense. And this did that. And I just, whew, it's now forever and ever like my comfort blanket, I feel like, because it just did the job so perfectly. Okay, I feel like I've said enough about that one. We're going to move on now. So another deck that I've decided it's time to move on is the Rune Spirals Rune deck by our very own Nina at Shuffle Tarot. This was an amazing tool, and it got a ton of use when I was doing the rune study. Dawn, Michelle, and I did a rune study. We have a little Facebook group where our lessons are, I don't know if lessons is right, but our like guided prompts and things are still there for you to access if you want to check it out. But this was such a great little rune deck for me when I was first learning the runes. Before this deck, I had not really encountered, hello, can we not be blurry? I had not really encountered another deck that would visually explain the runes, and this was so perfect for that. It was, again, the perfect study deck for me. The little guidebook that you can order off of Lulu, I believe, that you can get with it, did a really great job of going into information about all of the runes, and it was exactly what I needed when I needed it. But it was a tool. It was a tool that I used for a specific purpose. And now that I'm really comfortable with the basic meaning of the runes and have been for some time, this has just been sitting and effectively collecting dust. It's a great tool. It's one that I still recommend if you're trying to learn the runes. I think this was really, really great to have at hand when I was studying. But having gotten comfortable with the runes, the deck that I'm always reaching for as a altar cards or to actually use as a rune deck is the oh my gosh, is the Runic Odyssey Oracle. I forgot the name for a second. I had to like literally look at the box. This lives on my reading table. I use this all the time in my client readings. I do have another rune deck. I do have another rune deck that's really cute for cutesy readings, but to be honest, I use this one 90% of the time. If I'm pulling a rune, oh, I'm throwing the cards. If I'm pulling a rune for like, say, a inner child reading or something, then I might grab my cuter one. But I don't need a lot in the way of rune decks. These are really just for card draws at the beginning of client readings because I like often drawing a rune as part of that experience. But yeah, this one totally scratches my itch for a rune deck, and I have two as it is, so I'm good to go on this front. So this next thing that I'm going to talk about, two things actually, was sort of a recent realization. It comes from a place where I get a little gung-ho when I really like something, where I just want to collect them all. And in this particular case, I collected 3 decks from the same creator because I wasn't really sure if I wanted to use them all together, if I was going to want all of them, if I loved one a lot, so then I was going to love the others just as much. Like, I'm sure you know the drill. And I got these all around the same time. Well, kind of. So here's what I'm going to be talking about. The Antique Anatomy Tarot. This is actually in a divided Peggy bag here, but I have the Antique Anatomy Tarot. Now, I've had this twice. The first time I had it, it was on the first mass market printing, and the cardstock was just really flimsy and papery. This current edition is lovely. And this is a lot of fun to work with as a pip deck. It reads just fine, but I don't get excited to reach for it. It's kind of fun around Halloween time to have it as a pip deck, but this is cool. This was a cool deck. I had a lot of fun with it. And I also had traded for a copy of the Memento Mori Lenormand and Oracle by the same creator. Now, this copy was edged by hand, and the edging is a little bit messy, but that's okay. The thing about this is that this is sort of like a Lenormand style deck. There are the original 36 Lenormand cards sort of reworked to fit this style, and then a whole bunch of other cards. And I don't know what it is, but this deck is currently the darling of the Tarot Tube community. I feel like I've been seeing it in a lot of like favorites and recaps and things like that. People love this one, but I don't. And I think it's because historically, and I knew this when I traded for this deck, so but I really didn't know if I was going to feel differently until I had it in my hands. But typically decks where the object is just named and you just kind of go your own way with it are not my favorite to begin with. And because this has kind of a macabre theme, there's certain ones in here where I would immediately be able to riff on it intuitively. And then there's some here where it's very like gothic morbid. I'm like, what am I going to have to say about that? And now that I'm saying that, I can't find a whole lot of examples. Okay, well, no casket, I could do that. I mean, I don't know. This is one that I did in a reading for myself. I got the viewing table. And like, it makes sense. Like, I can definitely work with it, but this is another one that threw me, the sextant. Like, I just don't think this was my thing. And I should have known because the Coastal Curiosities Oracle, which is another sort of found object, named object style oracle, and so beautiful to look at, also didn't work for me. So like, this should have been a no-brainer. But the reason I've decided I think I'm okay to let go of both of these is because I absolutely am head over heels in love with the Oracle of Oddities. I have the first, second, and third, so it's a pretty nice sized chunky deck now. I love this deck with a love and passion that is true. I love the keywords on these cards. I love the themes that are in here, the balance to it. There's cards that are very sort of like uplifting, and then there's very shadowy cards. I love the anatomy and the flowers. I love it all. I love it all. I'm here for this. This to me feels like a really beautiful, neutral, deep, versatile kind of oracle, an oracle that I can use like a tarot, because it just has a lot of themes that I think work really well for that kind of reading. And that's what I love in an oracle deck. I love when it can be really versatile. So this deck, I realized this is the other issue and why I think I needed to let go of the Antique Anatomy and the Memento Mori, is because now that I have a set of things that sort of all go with by the same creator with the same sort of theme, I feel like I need to use them together. And that is something I've noticed over time really traps me, because I can't seem to get myself to break out of the habit of, well, if I have the Oracle of Oddities and I have the Memento Mori and I have the Antique Anatomy, I should use them together because they're such a perfect matching set. But I didn't like them together. And then I started using just the Oracle of Oddities and realized this is the deck. This is my Claire Goodchild deck. This is the one that I really, really love. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I am going to finally move on and accept that this is the one. Now, to be fair, Memento Mori didn't really have a lot of time in my collection, but I figured out pretty early that that was not going to be for me. So yeah, I'm going to let the Antique Anatomy and the Memento Mori go, and I'm just going to continue to enjoy the Oracle of Oddities because I love it so much. This next deck that I'm not keeping is also really new to my collection. It feels very new because I have just started trying to work with it not that long ago, and it did not go very well. But it is a beautiful, beautiful deck. I think the issue is just that I've bonded with something that I feel like is too similar for me to really get along with this one. And there's some handling issues. So the deck I'm about to talk about is the Tarot of the Enchanted Soul by Yasmin Westwood. Now, I have nothing but really positive things to say about the artwork, the way the deck is put together, the guidebook. You get so much good information in here. It's a beautiful guidebook. The deck itself is gorgeous. This is a Schiffer Red Feather publication. And I don't know what it is. I still cannot seem to figure out what is happening at Schiffer Red Feather, because I just feel like they're always a little bit off of whatever it seems like we're all saying we want. I should say we're all. Some of us who are very vocal and noisy like me say we want. Maybe I'm just mad that their stuff doesn't fit my personal wish list, which is really not a fair way to judge them as a company or anything like that. But these cards are, like, Yasmin did an incredible job with these. And I have actually several opinions about this where I'm like, there's ways in which I think this would work brilliantly. And okay, let me just stop babbling and see if I can get to the point. Let me show you some cards, see if I can keep the glare off of them. So here's the cool thing about this. The artwork is absolutely stunning, and the titles of the cards are within the context of the artwork. Outside of the artwork is a border, and on that border are keywords. Now, that fact alone, the way that it's constructed, it is gilded, by the way, and the gilding feels nice. This is glossy, but the gloss feels nice, and these cards are bendy. They're not that super stiff, like impossible to bend cardstock that Red Feathers used in the past. Now, with all of the good things said, well, now, the point I guess I want to make about this, and the thing that excited me about this, is that because there's keywords on the card, but they're on the border, this would be an excellent deck for wrapping your head around, sort of learning tarot using the keywords. And then once you've got a handle on that, basically trimming those off, coming right down to this artwork. And then once you did that, and the backs would allow for a trim, and I think it would be beautiful. And that may even be what they were thinking, which in a way is actually really ingenious, right? Because this inside portion where the artwork and the title is about the same as a standard tarot size. So these cards are oversized. By the time you trim them, you'd have a standard borderless deck with the titles on it, no keywords. So in that way, this is a really good like training deck, I feel like, for learning tarot. Now, with that said, I haven't studied the keywords, but for the most part, I feel like I got along with them pretty well. My issue was, as it is, it's large and difficult to shuffle because the cards are quite big. They're quite wide. I have large hands and I had to side shuffle it, and that wasn't always the easiest. So that was one issue. And then I thought to myself, well, I don't really need the keywords. I think it would be really beautiful trimmed. And so I was like, you know what, maybe I'll trim it. And then I realized that I don't want to put the work in. And that's just because I have another deck that I feel like scratches the itch for this kind of artwork that I really love. But I've talked about this before. Like I said, I think I've covered it in a Mass Market Madness video. I'll try to remember to link down below where I've talked about it. It is gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. The artwork makes so much sense. It aligns with the meanings. No complaints about the deck itself that way. It's just a production thing. It's too big. I'd need to trim it to make it really usable. And by the time I do that, I've got another deck I'd probably reach for more often. So I've just decided that it's okay. I don't need to keep this one. I will let this one go. But it is really, really beautiful. And I still stand by the fact that it makes a really good learning deck, because especially if you're willing to trim, because you can learn, study the keywords, and then eventually get down to just the artwork, and you'll have a deck that you know really, really well. And yeah, beautiful. But the deck that I have that scratches this itch is my Tarot of Mystical Moments. This is always the deck that I think of when I think of grabbing a deck that has this sort of dreamy, otherworldly, kind of fantastical, collage-y sort of artwork. And because I love the Tarot of Mystical Moments so much, when I have the itch to work with a deck like this, I'm always going to reach for this one first. And I realized it's not the Tarot of the Enchanted Soul's fault, right? It just happens to be that this one I love so much, and it's already the right size for shuffling. This one is also oversized, but it's not so big that I can't handle it. And I freaking love this deck so much that I just really realized I don't really want anything in my collection that's going to compete with this. So this is the deck that's sort of allowing me to let go of the Tarot of an Enchanted Soul without a whole lot of regret. All right, so those are the decks I'm not keeping. It's time now to talk about the decks I'm not going to buy, and we're going to be starting off with mass market decks I'm not going to buy. The first of these that I want to talk about is the Dark Crystal Tarot. I have to admit, okay, this is another Inside Editions fandom deck. I got pretty excited about this tarot when I saw it because I have seen the Dark Crystal a bajillion times. That is like classic childhood nostalgia for me. I love that movie. I love the vibes of that movie, and I think it's going to make a really fun fandom tarot deck. But I've talked myself out of it because I don't want a ton of fandom tarot decks in my collection. I want the fandom tarot decks, and by fandom, anything that's like based on a show that I really, really liked or a movie I really, really liked. I want those to be very, very, very few so that I can really enjoy them. I don't want to have so many of those things because I know that while they have lots and lots of meaning for me, they don't always have a lot of meaning to others in the same way. So they're a little bit more limited in use, which is one of the things that I'm aware of with fandom decks. And I already have a couple, and I have one for sure I'm going to be getting. So I wanted to sort of like rein myself in and be like, no, 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 no. What fandom deck do I have that I really love that also gives me that sort of childhood sort of 80s, 90s nostalgia? And it's of course my Last Unicorn Tarot, which lives in this gorgeous box. I've shown this deck a bazillion times on my channel, but that's okay. Any excuse to show it again because I love it so, so much. This is a deck that was officially licensed, all about the Last Unicorn Tarot. This is by Geektify. It's gorgeous. The production value is incredible, and this is my ultimate fandom. The Last Unicorn is my favorite movie of childhood and possibly still of adulthood. And the book is one of my favorite stories of all time. I just am really attached to these characters. I know them inside and out. And so this deck is infinitely readable for me. And I actually find this does work well for client readings because I know it so well. I can make good use of these archetypes. So the Last Unicorn Tarot is the deck that I sort of lean into when I'm tempted by a fandom deck and not sure if it would stand the test of time in my collection. It's like, I have the Last Unicorn, so I've got at least one good fandom deck. I don't need to jump on this other one. It's fine. Calm down, Lisa. That's what's happening. The next mass market deck I've decided I'm not going to buy is the Guardians of the Night Tarot. I mean, MJ Cullinane puts out some incredibly beautiful decks. From the Wise Dog, the Grimalkin, the Crow Tarot, the Urban Crow Oracle. There's just some beautiful, beautiful things. This Guardians of the Night was really, I think, a sidestep for her in her art and her decks in a way that really caught my attention. There is another one of hers that I'm still sort of considering for the future at some point. We'll see. But this one I've decided I don't need. It's another animal deck. And I think when it comes to animal decks, I'm often able to talk myself out of it because I have quite a few that I really, really like. And I'm hesitant to get rid of any of the ones I have to make room for yet another animal deck. So any new animal deck sort of has to bump itself up against what I already have and then convince me that it's better than something I have for me to consider bringing it in, if that makes sense. And in this case, the Guardians of the Night is sort of it feels very shadowy. It feels very like more deep, dark kind of animal deck. And for that, I have my Brady Tarot. So I've shown this a bunch also on the channel. I mean, everything I've shown here, I've definitely shown on the channel before. But the Brady Tarot is such a wonderful animal deck if you're looking for one that is not just like sort of all fluff. That sounded bad. Like, you know, this is not a gentle animal deck, right? As I pull it out in the towers, like on the very top, that's so funny. This deck is the one that I like to call my National Geographic deck because it's got so much rawness. It's kind of like nature as nature is before it's been prettified to make it easier to look at, do you know? And so this really works well for that sort of shadowy animal vibe. So if you have the Brady Tarot and you're tempted by another more shadowy animal deck, I would definitely encourage you to look again at the Brady. And the Brady is really, really wonderfully done. The artwork is absolutely exquisite. I love the keywords on the cards. Those could be a deal breaker for some, but I love them. And the guidebook's written by Rachel Pollack, and she did an incredible job. So this is just a treasure in my collection. I don't reach for it as often as other decks because it is an animal deck, and I just don't read with those as often as I read with others. So why do I have so many? I don't know. It's a thing that happens. I do love me some animals. But this one is so solid because I've never yet found another one that sort of hits this sort of darker, shadowier place in such an effective way without being over the top. And so this one definitely scratches that itch for me. The next mass market deck I've decided I think that I'm not going to buy, and this one I went back and forth on for a long time. It's the Complete Arthurian Tarot. This was out of print for a bit, and then I thought I really, really wanted it, and then I just decided to chill. It's fine. Calm myself down. And then it came back into print, and so many times I have almost just hit that buy button. And then I reminded myself that I had a different Arthurian tarot that I eventually rehomed, because as much as I thought it was beautiful and I wanted to study the Arthurian legends, there's layers to the Arthurian legends that I'm not overly interested in diving into. I kind of like the lighter, fluffier version of the Arthurian legends that I've been exposed to, and I just realized that the nitty-gritty of it doesn't really grab a hold of me like I wish it would, if that makes sense. And so this actually was partly a Peggy helped talk me out of it, because I was so ready to hit buy, and she's like, wait, didn't you rehome another Arthurian deck because the theme was an issue? And I was like, no. And she's like, are you sure? Because I could have swore that you let go of the one because you just couldn't get along with the theme. I'm like, yeah, but that one had really washed out artwork. And she's like, yeah, I know you said that, but you also said something about the theme. And I'm like, God damn your memory. Why though? Why? So anyway, needless to say, she called me out of my crap. She was totally right. I had totally let go of that other Arthurian tarot. It was called the Arthurian Legends, because the theme didn't grab me as much as I wanted it to. So I've decided I probably shouldn't grab the complete Arthurian tarot. As tempted as I am by all of y'all doing the Hallow Quest and all this stuff, I'm going to voyeuristically watch you all do your journey and be really excited for you about that. Because that's the other thing that grabbed me, and I'm like, Lisa, you don't have time. You do not have time to do the Hallow Quest. Calm down. Because right now I'm studying I Ching, I'm studying the Oghams, I'm writing and creating I'm creating a tarot deck, I'm writing a book, I'm working a job, I have client readings on YouTube, and stop it, Lisa. Stop. I want to do all the things, because this is literally, I live and breathe this stuff, you guys. Give me something new to study, please. But then I just take too much on, and I'm trying to calm myself down. So no, I don't get to do the Hallow Quest right now. That's just too much. As it is, I'm trying to talk myself out of a deck and walk, but I may still do that. We'll see. We'll see. But anyways, so that's where I'm sitting with that. I talked myself out of it by reminding myself that I have other decks that give me that, because I'm really drawn to that sort of Celtic stuff. I have a lot of Celtic heritage. I'm really drawn to Scottish specifically, but Scottish, Irish stuff right now, Celtic stuff right now. I'm still bringing in things that have a Celtic vibe. I'm just trying to keep them more open and expansive and less specific to the Arthurian legends. The whole land of Glastonbury and Wales is really significant to me personally for spiritual reasons, but at the end of the day, that just sort of general Celtic stuff is what's really floating my boat right now. So in my collection right now, I do have the Wildwood Tarot, and this does give a lot of those vibes. It gives me that sort of sacred land, Celtic, vibe, right? And this copy of the Wildwood, and my first copy of the Wildwood was on this sort of, it wasn't glossy like this. My first copy was thin and kind of bowed and just had a funky, it was thin, and I don't know, it was not good cardstock. And I trimmed it, did kind of a poor job of it, I personally think, and then let it go. And then was tempted to get this again, and I'm so glad I did. This felt like home the moment I picked it up, this particular copy. So I'm really glad that I have the Wildwood, and when I want to connect to that idea of sort of sacred land and nature, I have this. I don't need to go into Arthurian legends to feel connected to that part of land that I feel spiritually connected to. And so I have a lot of the sort of Celtic vibes I'm craving in this. And I do have actually another deck on the way that I purchased secondhand that is going to help me with that sort of Celtic hunger. What am I trying to say? That Celtic interest that I have right now. I'm reading a lot about Celtic mythology, specifically from Scotland, but I'm doing a lot of that kind of thing right now. And yeah, I feel like my itch is scratched there. I've got to come up with a better analogy, because it's always like itching and scratching. And I feel like there's got to be something that sounds better than that for this. If you have any bright ideas, let me know down below. I'll try to change my language. I say, but I probably won't, because old habits. But anyways, I have the Wildwood. I don't need the complete Arthurian tarot. That's the final word on that. That, my friends, brings us to indie decks I've decided I'm not going to buy. This first one I have talked myself out of, and then started to talk myself back into, and then back out of, and then back into, and then people that I love and respect get it, and I really want it, and then I'm like, Lisa, this is not your thing. Calm down. Calm down. It's the Tempest Tarot. I want to love this. This feels like the grown-up sort of mature version of an oceany deck. It just feels a little bit wild and weird in a good way. And this is definitely fantasy self stuff, but I just picture myself really loving a deck like this, but I don't in reality. Like, I just want to. But there's something I've learned about myself and ocean decks, and it's that very few ocean themed decks actually work for me. More on that in a minute, but I do have the Healing Waves Tarot, and this does work for me. It's currently out of print. Keep an eye out for people that are trading them or selling them, because I've definitely seen some copies going around. I really love this deck. This deck has a story for me. It feels like my ocean tarot. It does the trick for me. It does the trick. And so while yes, part of me is like, oh, I mean, like, I love the colors. I love the illustration style. I really genuinely enjoy this deck so, so much. I don't need the Tempest Tarot. I need to calm down. I really do. I need to calm down. So I have this. I love this. When I'm craving working with an oceany deck, this fits the bill. I've let go of other ocean decks because I have this. So, like, why would I bring in one that is just going to eventually get kicked out because I have this anyways? So that's where I landed on that. This next deck came up in my last hot takes, and it is the new deck by the creator of the Saki Saki Tarot called I Am the Artist. The moment I found out about this, I was like, oh, I want the Saki Saki. And I think a lot of that was because the Saki Saki Tarot has bold, bright colors, and it's been out of print for what feels like a really long time. Every time I would see it pop up in people's videos, I'd be like, oh, I want that. And then I would see all the headless people, and I would be like, I don't want that. I don't need a deck full of headless people. What am I even thinking? And then the creator goes and does this I Am the Artist, and reworks a bunch of the art. I don't think there's any headless people anymore, or if there are, they're very few. I can't see any on the preview images. So they put heads on people. This should be perfection. But I don't need it. I don't need it. And I'm not even ultimately sure it's for me. So I gave it a lot of thought. I sat with it. I was like this close to ordering it like several times. And then I'm like, did you just want it though because you couldn't get it for a long time? And that does happen to me. Sometimes I'm like, when something is out of print, this is like the very nature of FOMO, or fear of missing out, is that when something's out of print and you don't think you can have it, it's almost like it seems more desirable sometimes. Or I worry that I'm missing out on something. That's the whole point of like fear of missing out. So when this was coming back, I was like, I've got to snap this up. I have to take the opportunity to get it while I can. But then the more I looked at it, and then I went and watched some walkthroughs of the Saki Saki, I was like, I'm actually not all that tempted by this. I think I'm tempted by the idea of this. I do love bold, bright colors, and I'm definitely a sucker when a deck has some really good, bold, bright colors, for sure. Especially the really garish stuff. Sometimes that just really gets me in the feels in a good way. So I was giving it some thought. I'm like, and then I remembered that I had just backed another tarot deck that also has bold, bright colors that I think can fill that sort of need for something, or that desire for something quirky and fun and funky. And that is the Tarot Ultraviolet.ts. I'll put a picture of it up here. I backed this on Kickstarter. I don't have a copy of it right now, so I can't show you a physical copy. But because I've backed this on Kickstarter, I don't think that I need the Saki Saki I Am the Artist Tarot. I think I can be okay without it. I think that the Tarot Ultraviolet is going to be really fun and funky and sort of scratch that itch for that. So one more down. And that brings me to my third indie deck that I'm not going to buy, and it's another ocean one. And it is the Healing Waters Oracle. This is so dang pretty. I really wanted to hop on this immediately, like immediately. But I have another Oceany Oracle, and I mean, I'm going to say this is the reason that I'm not getting the Healing Waters Oracle, but I've been having a problem with ocean decks. I got the Whispers of the Ocean deck, and I rehomed it. What's the other one that I got that I rehomed? Whispers of the Ocean, there was another one. The Healing Water Temple, the Water Temple Oracle. That one didn't work for me. And I have this stunningly beautiful, I was so excited to get this stunningly beautiful Ocean Dreams Oracle by Danielle Noel. Now I still have this, and I still want to give it a try. And I have given it a couple of tries since the last time I said I was going to give it a try, and it's not hitting the way that I want it to hit. And I don't want to be in a rush because I was so excited for this. It's so beautiful. I'm just going to keep showing you the box, apparently. This is so beautiful. It's truly, it's so beautiful. but there's something a little bit, I think, too cosmic about this. And this is what I mean when I say that I'm starting to realize that when it comes to oceany, watery oracles or tarots, I think there's something about me and my connection to the ocean that is making me incredibly, insanely picky about these kinds of decks. And I don't even really know what I want in one. And now, like, I would like to say, oh, I'll just make my perfect ocean tarot deck because that's something that's actually feasible these days. But I don't even know right now what I would want in one. Now, if I ever figure that out, darn sure I'm going to create one. But I can't figure it out. And I don't want to let ocean dreams go yet because what if it's just my mood? What if I'm just in a bad mood about ocean decks lately? I don't know. What if that's what it is? But every time I see a new one, I get all excited and I want it and then I get it in and then I'm like, what am I doing? I don't like this. And it happens to me all the time. I'll like it for a very short time and then I'm super over it. And I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm going to try to just stick with what I have. And I will, for sure, continue to buy oceany related decks. I'm sure. And eventually, maybe I'll find the one, you know. But I think for now, the only one that's been the one is the Healing Waves Tarot. So that's the one I'm going to stick with. But yes, I still have this. So this is how come I'm not getting the Healing Waters. Wow, I just realized these are really similar. Healing Waves, Healing Waters. That's not going to get confusing at all. But the reason I'm not going to get the Healing Waters Oracle is because I have this, and I'm already not really gelling with this. So I'm not going to bring in yet another water oracle just to have the same thing happen all over again. Maybe I'm getting cynical. Maybe that's the thing. Am I getting cynical? Do I sound cynical to you? Let me know. All right, that brings me to Kickstarters I'm not going to back. And sadly, one of these is a Kickstarter that I had backed and backed out of, which I feel terrible about, but I realized I had probably been a little too impulsive. So I'll tell you that one at the very end. Let me start off with some ones that I talked myself out of before backing them, but just by the skin of my teeth. The first of these is the Witchy Magic Tarot. Is this not like my aesthetic? This is my aesthetic, right? Like, it's kind of like with the Cosmic Cycles Tarot. Also, totally my aesthetic. Also, for some reason, I feel like I don't need these. I wonder if it's because a lot of these really bright and boldly colored tarots that have this almost like Disney-like quality to their artwork, they really excite me, but they almost feel, I don't know what the right word is. I want to say repetitive, but there's nothing repetitive about them. They're creative. They're ingenuitive. Is that a word? Anyway, they're creative, innovative. That's the word I was looking for. They're innovative. I think they're beautifully done. I cannot come up with a tangible, real reason why I don't want a bunch of these in my collection, but for some reason I don't. So I was thinking of what do I have in my collection that's got that sort of fun, bright, could theoretically be like a Disney cartoon or a Pixar movie. You know what I'm saying, right? Like that kind of style. And I realized that I have the Good Karma Tarot, which I really love this deck. I don't know what else to say. I love it. I think it's fantastic. It's got bright colors. It's got that sort of cartoon look to it, that cartoon vibe. But it's fun, it's smart, it's creative. And I think because I have this and I have other more modern decks that I really like, I just don't need these other ones. So I talked myself out of the Witchy Magic Tarot. And to be honest, besides the fact that I had put it on my tarot wish list for a while, I probably would have forgotten all about it. And again, it's not because it's not beautiful and gorgeous and like everything I should want. It is. I have, again, no immediate critiques come to mind. But I don't think I want a lot of cartoony decks. I'm sure I have a lot, but like I feel like there's a similarity to a particular type of cartoony deck that I don't want too much of. Yo, I can't even fully explain it. It is what it is. This next one, I got very close to backing it. I talked about it in my last hot takes, and it is the Creatures Tarot. And more specifically, it's the Creatures Tarot and the Creatures Oracle. You guys, I went so far, I'm very sorry to the creator, I went so far as to message the creator after I filmed my hot takes to ask if she'd ever consider adding the Creatures Oracle to the campaign so that people who backed it at the tarot level could add on the Creatures Oracle. Because when I did my hot takes, and some of you even commented on this after the fact, when I filmed my hot takes, that wasn't an option. After speaking with her, she decided to add some, I think, a limited quantity. So they may be gone now. I'm sorry if they're gone now. I'm sorry. But she decided to add a limited quantity so that people who wanted to add the Oracle to their tarot could back the tarot and get the Oracle as well. The temptation of a matched set tarot and oracle is strong. But, and I'm just realizing this as I'm recording this right now, remember what I just said about the whole Antique Anatomy and Memento Mori and Oracle of Oddities and how it locked me into using those decks together? I'm now realizing that's also a very good reason not to back things in sets like that, because they do get sort of stuck together and then I have a hard time unsticking them. So there's that. But more specifically, I realized that while I was really drawn to the art style on both the tarot and the oracle, and you guys, there's something about the silhouette-y look of these that really is exciting to me. All of that said, I was like, this feels playful and kind of monstery, which y'all know I love me some monsters, partly because I feel like monsters and other creatures like that are sort of naturally gender neutral, or could be gender neutral, depending on how you want to view them. But I've got a deck that does that for me. And I've got 3 different copies of it. Wait, 1, 2. Yeah, I've got 3 different copies of it. And it's the Mons Tarot. And I know I talk about this in like almost every video because I've loved this deck for a long time. But the Mons Tarot, this is all my monstery goodness that I need. This is actually my 2nd edition copy, which I trimmed to be fully borderless, which, by the way, doesn't it look amazing? Fully borderless. So good, right? I actually use this copy of this deck the least. I use my Travel Mons Tarot and my 1st edition the most, but this one's really great for showing on camera because it looks so pretty all borderless. And I edged it real pretty and I put a lot of work into it, so I want to show it off. But anyway, I do have my monsters, and I even have their matching Oracle deck, which, by the way, I love. What happened to my white balancer? That was weird. I love using the Little Bug Oracle with the Mons Tarot. It looks fantastic. So I do have a cute, monstery, adorable, I can't talk, adorable. I do have an adorable set, Tarot and Oracle set. So this is the Little Bug Oracle, which is set in the same world as the Mons Tarot, but it's centered on these like little bug creatures that are sort of like the little helpers in the Mons Tarot. But here they've got their own deck. They're almost like the Fae of the Mons Tarot world, but they're bugs. They're so cute. They're so cute, and the backs are really cute. And I added my own personal keywords to this deck, so I modified this as well. So this is like my perfect little Mons Tarot companion. So I have a super adorable, really cute, monstery tarot and matching oracle already. The instances in which I would want to reach for the Creatures Tarot and its combined matching oracle are the exact instances that I would want to reach for my Mons Tarot. And like, do I really want a reason to reach for my Mons Tarot any less? No. No, I don't. So Creatures Oracle was a no-go for me, but I mean, it's really fun. It's really fun. So I was super tempted. I just managed to avoid the temptation. Go me. All right. So the last one is a deck that I backed, but the backing period was still open and I decided to cancel my pledge. I'm so sorry. This is one where I think my appreciation for the artwork of the creator made me willing to back it sight unseen, because there's just not a lot of previews of the cards. I really don't know what the Minor Arcana looks like, and I just realized, and it was really affordable, but I just realized, I was like, you know, there's other decks by this creator that I already have and already love. Have I even said what it is yet? It's the Peony Clown Tarot. You guys, if the campaign is still open when you're seeing this and you are drawn to this, please check it out. The creator's work is incredible. I love her work. I have a couple of her other decks that I really love. I'm about to talk about one of them now. But this campaign deserves to be funded. It's just a bummer because there are not enough card preview images for me to really see what I'm getting. So I want to see more pictures of the Minor Arcana. And I know the artwork for the deck is completed, and I know it's a pip deck, and all of that I'm fine with. So part of it was like realizing I couldn't see all the artwork, and then the other part of it was me realizing that the theme wasn't necessarily grabbing me. I have no special fondness for clowns. I'm not scared of clowns, but I'm also not specifically fond of them. And this is a clown-themed tarot. I think I wanted it because it was cute, bridge-sized, and by this creator whose work I'm really drawn to. And I was like, no. put the brakes on. Even if it was affordable, I realized I would reach for the other decks I have by this creator before I would reach for this one. And I also happen to know that there's another deck that the creator is working on that is going to be published mass market that I know I'm going to want. It's called the Sweet, that I'm going to want, that I'm going to want to buy. And that is the Sweet Forager Tarot. I've seen a bunch of the previews of the artwork for that deck on the creator's Instagram, and oh my gosh, that deck is like really catching my eye. So I'm like, how many decks by this creator do I need? So I decided to stop, take a breather, and lean into enjoying the one that I already have and love so, so much. So I've got two. I've got the Rainbow Moon Tarot, but this is the one that I'm head over heels in love with. Now this is the Penelope's Tarot. This is the independent version that was available. I think you can actually still get it from Rook, I believe is her last name now. You can still get it from her Etsy, I believe. But this is going to be coming out mass market. It'll be renamed the Valerius Tarot. So I will have links to both the indie version and the upcoming mass market version down below so you can keep your eyes peeled. This one has this gorgeous blue edging and it's full tarot size. The mass market one is going to be a little pocket one. At least it looks like it's going to be. I probably am going to want that too because I really love this deck and I think it would be really cute in like pocket format. It's like minimalist and it's got a limited color palette that I love. I've used it a ton. It's really clear for me. It feels really sassy and fun. I just really like it. I really like it. But loving this so much is what made me want even more. And so I'm trying to slow my roll because like I said, I know I'm going to want the Sweet Forager Tarot when it comes out. So I just realized I needed to slow down, wait for that one, maybe see if I'm going to get the Valerius Tarot, also like the mini version of this when it comes out, and then see how I feel later on about this Peony Clown Tarot. That said, I do hope that the campaign funds, because this art style, this sort of creepy but slightly dark, kind of edgy aesthetic that Sam Rook's art has is just something cool and unique, and I really like seeing their creations out in the wild, so I hope it gets funded, but I backed out. Sorry, backed out. Oh my gosh, so that is it. Those are all the decks that I am either not keeping, not buying, or not backing. Whew. I feel like I got out of that by the skin of my teeth because most of these, and what I really try to focus on nowadays with these anti-hauls are decks that truly, truly tempt me that I managed to talk myself out of. So I'm proud of myself for not giving into the temptation and particularly for not giving into things like FOMO because I feel like that's when I end up with decks that ultimately don't stick around and that's honestly just wasteful. I don't want to end up with decks that I just have to cycle back out again. Now that being said, I am now beginning to very intentionally make some decisions around occasionally bringing decks in for the sole purpose of sharing them with you guys. In other words, I am going to start occasionally bringing in a deck that I'm not sure is necessarily for me, but that I think a lot of you might enjoy so that I can share it with you, give it some airtime, and then move it along. And that's something that I can do with this channel's budget. So I hope to do more of that in the future. I've got one of those reviews coming up actually in just a week or maybe less, So keep your eyes out for that. And then if I do it like that, if I bring it in very intentionally like that, knowing it might not stay, there's a good chance I'll probably end up giving that away in some fashion here on the channel. So that'll be a fun thing that I can do. But as far as decks that I just am like getting all grabby hands about, I'm trying not to do that for myself because part of it is that I love getting to feast my eyes on new tarot and oracle decks. I feel like I learn from every single new deck that I look at, even if it's one I don't ultimately like. And so sometimes it's hard for me to not say yes to just everything. But in reality, I've learned over the years that when my collection hits a certain point, when my tarot decks reach a certain number, I look around and I'm like, I don't know what to do, and I get overwhelmed. So my collection always pretty much has stayed from the time it first grew the first time to this like large size collection I feel like I have now. It's pretty much stayed at the same size, roughly, give or take a few here or there. I end up bringing things in, decluttering things, moving things out. Some things stand the test of time. Some decks come in for a reason, a season or a lifetime. You know the drill. And I like that. I like the way that things rotate. But what I realized for myself is that I have gotten pickier and pickier as the years have gone on, and I've also gotten a much, much clearer picture of the kinds of decks I'm likely to actually want to work with. So that goes into these decisions too. But trust and believe, I am tempted as much as y'all are tempted. Often by you guys telling me about decks that are coming out. So thanks for that, by the way. Anyways, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I'm always thrilled to be able to sit here and talk tarot with y'all. This is my favorite thing to do. So thank you for spending time. I will be seeing you all again very, very soon. And until then, may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye.